thanks, longing, and deepest respect. I also would like to congratulate the holy month of Ramadan, the ninth day of which we are celebrating today. I also pray for God that this group meeting will be auspicious for our party and for our nation. Last week, we also established the youth branches, and we have completed the organizational structure of our party. And together with our youth, we have discussed the roadmap which will carry our country forward. Just like any of our branches, we make sure that the right people in our youth branches have been selected so that we can carry Turkey toward our targets. Hopefully, these young brothers and sisters will use their time in order to reach out to the targets of our country. Last night, we have divided one of our ministries into two, and 3 new ministers have been appointed to their new position. Our Minister of Family, Labor and Social Services, Zehra Zümrüt Selçuk, and our Minister of Trade, Rusar Pekcan, I would like to thank them for all the services that they have provided for our country on behalf of myself and on behalf of my party. The Minister of Family and Social Services will be Derya Yanık, and the Minister of Labor and Social Security will be Vedat Bilgin, and the Minister of Trade will be Mehmet Muş, and I would like to wish them success. From now on, with our general headquarters, with our cabinet, and with our central decision-making and administrative committee, with all of our provincial directorates, we should focus on our targets for 2023. We know that we couldn't come to this point easily, so we also are aware of the fact that from now on it will not be easy. As from the time that we have founded our party, we have overcome many obstacles and barriers and setbacks, and we have realized many masterpieces and services. When we take a look to the past 20 years, we will realize that after our foundation, we actually provided the most prolific period in which many challenges have also taken place. In our last group meeting, I have tried to summarize you the masterpieces that we have realized for Turkey. And we also know that as Turkey grows, Turkey is facing with many attacks and challenges as well, and the size of those challenges and attacks are increasing as well. Please remember, Turkey was dependent on the foreign countries in the industry, so any sort of bottlenecks in the field of supply was leading Turkey to crumble. So Turkey was in such a place that she cannot produce even her screws or any of its product, but right now we are producing 70% of our industrial assets. But I also would like to ask how we couldn't manufacture our screws and nuts. I mean, those times where the CHP, the Republican People's Party, was in power. As they have such a narrow mentality, they were only investing in distributorships, but they were not able to invest in greater projects. And they were only boasting about self-sufficiency in the field of agricultural production, but we were they were not asking why we are not one of the top 10 countries in terms of the agricultural export. The tourism sector have been realized only thanks to our subsidies and incentives and our cultural diplomacy. Turkey was negatively affected and had the risk of indulging to economic crisis even in the face of slightest fluctuations in the political relations. They were the ones who were trying to polarize our nation via different social conflicts. For example, during 1970s, the ideological polarization and the brothers and sisters were trying to kill each other based on their ethnic differences. And the similar game has been played much later, and they always attacked on our economy. Only with 1 or 2 million of speculations, they tried to attack our economy in 1994, although it was not the case for the global economic development, and a huge crisis has developed in Turkey. Only a couple of years after that economic crisis, they created a new economic crisis for Turkey by making use of certain dynamics. Mr. Kılıçdaroğlu, check your memory if you have any. The overnight interest has reached to the level of 1,500%, and billions of dollars have been seized, and this price has been paid by the nation, and the sole responsible for those times were the CHP administrators. So we have come to office in Turkey as the general situation was, as I explained, and we have initiated the greatest development policies, and the threats for crisis has never stopped. And as of 2012 November, we have faced many attacks. We have faced with the societal engineering initiatives, from the overnight declarations to the party closure trials. We have faced with many political games which are ungroundless and illegal. And right now, such an impertinent person says that he hopes that I will share the destiny of Mr. Menderes. So this impertinent person, I would like to say to you that as we have set foot on this cause, we were ready to wear our shroud and burial clothes. And we are never afraid of death, because as our belief dictates, we will make the death fear of us, and this will be the mentality in our cause as we head forward. But you are among the ones who are trying to hide away from the death. So are you happy with the end and the destiny of Mr. Menderes, because you were the ones who prepared the death of Mr. Menderes? So are you making us remember the destiny of Mr. Menderes? But do not work in vain. We are ready for that. On 15th of July, we have seen that. And we actually turned this country into the graveyard for the coup plotters of 15th of July. And your party president was hiding away from the tanks and going to the Bakırköy Square. And we actually greeted not only Turkey but the whole world and conveyed our message not only to the Turkey and to the whole world as we were struggling against the tanks. And we stood upright. But in the face of the tanks, you fled away and you started having your coffees and teas in the Bakırköy municipality, and you follow what is going on the 15th of July. And that will be the case. You will continue to follow the developments. But still, we will continue with our cause. In the press meetings, you cannot expect that I will be sharing the same destiny with Mr. Menderes, because we believe in this statement. Each organism will one day taste the death. If you do not share the same belief, that is your problem, but one day you will taste the death as well. And that is how we are continuing with our cause, with this mentality. And our cause is for this nation, and our cause is to develop this nation even further. That's why we always stated that if need be, we are ready to sacrifice our lives for this nation. Including but not limited to the promises that have been given but not kept in our full membership process to the EU, there have been many wrongdoings and misgivings. With the support coming from our nation and our belief in God, we never turn back, and we always try to find our solutions by turning back to our nation and listening to them. And thanks to God, our nation embraced us, and they said to us that there is no rest for the weary. As the toothless supporters couldn't materialize their tactics, they started to employ much hideous tactics and strategies. They tried to turn the streets into chaotic places. With the coup attempts, they tried to attack on the national will. When these tactics and strategies are not enough, then they try to throw all the terrorist organizations attacking us. And then, unfortunately, we have faced with the 15th of July coup attempt, and we never turned back, and we always head forward, struggling against those attacks. They tried to prevent us from selecting the president, and then we have given the authority to the nation to choose the president directly. By making use of the legislation and regulations, they try to hold and tie our hands, but we have strengthened the presidential system so that the national will be heard much better. And together with the support of our nation, we have overcome the trouble of the coup plotters. But right now, they are trying to find the support of the retired admirals. And Mr. Kılıçdaroğlu says that the retired admirals cannot make a coup, but they are your mentors because they expect you to do the coup. So they say, why do you wait? Go onto the streets, they say, just like what happened on the night of 15th of July. You are continuing to your cause with your mentors, but you should know that we will give the lesson to those mentors of yours, and they will never have the chance and opportunity to realize their dreams. And we will fight with the terrorist organizations not only in the side of our borders, but we are fighting with them in cross-abroad operations, and we smashed them so far, and we will continue to do so. And we also have given our support to our Azerbaijani brothers in Nagorno-Karabakh. So after we have given such kind of support to our brothers abroad, many economic attacks have been forwarded to our nation, including but not limited to interest rate manipulations. Since Turkey has very solid and strong macroeconomic balances, despite many direct and indirect economic attacks on Turkey, Turkey has preserved its stability. Well, God forbid, in the climate of Turkey's economy before 2002, we couldn't imagine what kind of a situation we would be in if we had faced with such kind of economic and political attacks. We will always preserve the understanding that the national will prevail and Turkey will always protect its interests inside and outside of Turkey. If we let the tutelage supporters prevail and if we kneel in front of the terrorist organizations, if we have listened and obeyed to the foreign demands, then most probably we wouldn't be living those economic troubles and challenges. But then I couldn't look at the face of my nation and my citizen. That's why I would like to thank my Minister of Foreign Affairs for the response that he has given to the Greek counterpart. We will never bow our head and we will stand upright and we will always be standing upright because our nation cannot live under the chain of the slavery. Mehmet Akif Ersoy has stated that if you are soft-headed, who says that I am such a sheep to obey your demands, if the time comes, we will give our head, but we will always stand upright. So, our ultimate priority is our independence, as has always been. We will continue to fight against the interest rate and the foreign exchange manipulations and inflation. We have always struggled against this triangle of evil powers. I would like to ask this question to the ones who were criticizing us. What should have we done? Should have we obeyed to the demands of the foreign and evil powers? So should we be the bystanders to the economic attacks forwarded on our nation? So should we be the bystanders and should we give up from the cross-border operations based on our rights in Syria? On August 2018, the United States government have declared the sanctions which are legally groundless. Should we have been bystanders to those sanctions? Last but not least, they are the ones who try to crown their endeavors to make our economy even worse with the economic sanctions in the face of the COVID-19. So should we be bystanders to those attacks? We should also interpret the ungroundless claims of $128 billion destiny raised by CHP. I would like to state that they do not have the willingness to find out what happened to $128 billion. First of all, the numbers are not right. The meaning which is put in front of this number is not right as well. So this political campaign is groundless and lies. This political campaign is the product of ignorance. But we cannot overlook to those claims by saying that this is ignorance, because as you know, there are three different types of ignorance. The first type is not knowing something. The ignorance can actually stem from that. But the good side of it is that you know that you don't know. But in the second type of the ignorance, there are the ones who don't know anything about it, but they would like to learn about it. In the third type of the ignorance, it is actually the greatest type of ignorance, or as the saying goes, the castle of the ignorance. So in the third type of the ignorance, the ones actually are educated, but they are the educated ignorant person. So they are in need of further education to correct their mistakes. And the third type of ignorance again is the well-educated ignorant ones. So they are educated, so they know the topic, they know the subject, but they are very dangerous because knowingly and willingly they try to blend the truth with the lies. So most probably this third type of ignorant people are well known to you. Being an enemy against AK Party, People's Alliance and Erdoğan makes the eye of this third type of ignorance so blind that they are trying to realize their political gains even if the nation fails. So they actually want a disaster for this nation. So they, first of all, want Turkey to go into crisis as it has happened in 1994 and 2001. After such a severe economic crisis, they believe that Turkey will be in need of a political party change. And they do not only have this wish and desire, they already initiated their fifth column activities so that Turkey will go into the economic crisis. And they are even making calls to the international capital saying that do not invest in Turkey. They have lost their sight with the reality. This team of distraction who always makes such kind of calls of not investing in Turkey is well known by our nation as well. So this team, who is backed by the CHP, is trying their best in order to decrease the morale of our nation and fret away the investors from our Turkey, and they are working day and night for that purpose. So as this third type of ignorance, they are spreading lies even they know that this is not the right, and they are spreading the lies of $128 billion. So let's watch a video in order to understand the lies of CHP. This video is about the lies of CHP on accusation of $128 billion. If you would like to orient the masses, you have to spread a great lie. And the second criteria should be that it should be a simple lie. As the CHP, we would like to ask a very simple question. So, I would like to ask 5 questions even the kindergarten kid can understand. And repeat that lie. 128, 128, $128 billion. And then watch how the masses will embrace this lie. For the last 50 years, they were the ones who have been politically fed by the lies. and disinformation, and the mentality of the CHP is uninterruptedly spreading and creating lies, and with those lies they are trying to create an economic chaos for this country. They were the sole responsible for the 2001 economic crisis, and they made Turkey obliged to cooperate with the IMF. And the Central Bank of Turkey works on the principle of transparent reporting, so the reserves can actually be used for such purposes. The balance sheet of the central banks are the most transparent ones, not only in Turkey but all around the world. So if you know how to read the balance sheet of the central banks, you can visit the website and you can see how the dollars have been exchanged and how many dollars have been sold or bought. So they were actually smashed under this disinformation. Well, $128 billion cannot disappear all of a sudden. I mean, if I give a response to that, then we would definitely make our questions, groundless. I mean, if I say the truth right now, then I will make our question groundless. So, with those lies, they try to distract the trust of our nation on our party, and they also used such sensitive pictures. But today's government, within 19 years, have constructed such a strong infrastructure. And let's take a look to the last 18 years of the foreign exchange reserve of the central bank. It was $27.5 billion in 2002. In 2015, it went beyond $50 billion. In 2012, it went beyond $100 billion. In 2013, despite the Gezi Park events, it went beyond $100 billion. In August 2018, despite the economic operations of the Trump on Turkey, the foreign exchange reserve was $84.7 billion. On February 2020, the foreign exchange reserves increased to $117 billion. On March 2020, due to the COVID-19 pandemic international shock, it was still beyond $100 billion. On April 2021, the foreign exchange reserve was $89.4 billion. Due to the pandemic which is going on for the last year, all economies have been negatively affected. Turkey is a growing and developing economy. Also, we had liquidity problems in the foreign exchange, just like many other countries. As the capital outflow increased and the demand on the gold increased as well, and the contractions in the fields like tourism and health decreased. As a result, the foreign exchange reserves decreased slightly. This is not selling foreign exchange. The central banks have employed policies to support employment and real sector, which also made our banking sector survive. And with those policies, Turkey has been one of the two countries who grew in the face of pandemic among G20 countries. And for a sustainable growth, the necessary conditions have been created by the central bank, and those foreign exchange reserves have been used in order to support the economy. And those sellings and procurements have been carried out based on the market conditions. And in order to support the liquidity problem in the market, those transactions have been carried out. You can spread big lies. The big lies should be repeated all the time. $128 billion Well, they are the ones who try to discredit the most important institutions of our government, of our state, for their political gains. Despite them, this country will continue to grow, will continue to produce, and will continue to develop.
Evet. Gördünüz.
You have seen it already. These are the proofs, these are the documents. You can easily understand how a lie can be spread with love, with great enthusiasm. If you ask this to the General President of the CHP, he will say that I am an expert on mathematics, but he is the one who actually failed the social security institution as he was at the head of it. When we came to office, the foreign exchange reserve of the central bank was only $27.5 billion. When I left my office as the Prime Minister, this foreign exchange reserve have increased to $135 billion. You have also followed what happened afterwards. So right now, everybody sees how the foreign exchange reserves are being managed, but Mr. Kılıçdaroğlu, who even didn't put 128 bricks onto each other, asks this question, where is $128 billion? You know, the lady in the video has stated, you should spread big lies so that people will believe in it. So this lady is the guide of Mr. Kılıçdaroğlu. So you should spread big lies, and that's why Mr. Kılıçdaroğlu spread big lies. So the spokesperson of this person is the sole responsible person for the 2001 economic crisis. If he asks this question without knowing how to read the balance sheet of the central bank, then it is such a great shame that he has been authorized in great institutions. If he knows how to read the balance sheet of the central banks, then he also admits that he is in treason with his nation by asking such kind of questions. So we watch and follow those with great sadness in their campaigns. They are the ones with great titles who are the antagonists and the leading figures of this campaign. And we are very sorry about them. As the AK Party head and the president of this country, we showed great patience in order not to deal with this problem. We thought that this is one of the new lies of the CHP, so we didn't pay a lot of attention to that. So we have also realized that there are the ones who thought that we are afraid of such lies, and they increased the dose of their lies. That's why we thought that it is high time we answered to and respond back to those lies. First of all, I would like to state that Turkey doesn't deserve this political fight, and Turkey also doesn't deserve this discourse of the opposition. Turkey doesn't deserve such kind of people who spread lies as if they are drinking a cup of water. We always wanted an opposition party where we can compete with them in terms of service and in terms of the realized masterpieces, from the education to health, transportation to energy, to agriculture and sport. We expect an opposition who can commit the more masterpieces that they could realize than us. So rather than serving for the foreign and international games, we expect an opposition party who are willingly serving to our nation. Until then, we will continue to disclose their lies. Dear colleagues, let's come back to the issue of $128 billion. Well, indeed, $128 billion doesn't have anything to do with the reality. It is really important from which date you are making your analysis on the central bank foreign exchange reserve. So the result of the analysis can be changing based on the analysis initiation time. I would like to share this with my nation. In this dynamic system, which is called market, most probably hundreds of millions of dollars are changing hands, and the majority of those transactions are being carried out based on the central bank. That's why the numbers are changing all the time. Well, if they articulate such kind of a number, let's make the math based on this number. Let's do the math based on this number. We have discussed with the Minister of Treasury and the Minister of Finance, and they have also explained the issue again and again. Unfortunately, their messages are reaching to the ears which are willing to hear the truth, and they cannot even tolerate their own friends when they speak the truth. I mean, you have watched it already. Mr. Kesici explained the truth, and one day later he changed his opinion and stated that I am on terms with the general president of my political party. But what the lady in the video said, you should spread big lies. I mean, they are the political pawns, and they can change their opinions only after 1 hour. They are the ones who don't see, although they have eyes. That they are the ones who cannot say the reality even if they have the tongue. That's why they are repeating the same lies again and again. The ones who are asking this question doesn't have the will of learning the foreign exchange of the central bank. If they want to learn about the foreign exchange reserves of the central bank, it is very easy. I mean, if they are the ones who can read the balance sheet of the central banks, you can visit the website of the central bank and also the Banking Supervision and Regulation Authority. But if there aren't any who can not read the balance sheets, then we can send them an expert from our bureaucracy or from our political party in order to enlighten them. But we also know that they don't want to find out the truth and reality, but rather develop their dirty campaigns based on lies and misinformation. And they are trying to make use of those dirty campaigns for their political gains. Even the nation will be negatively affected by that. But why are we in need of further explanation? Because there might be the ones, our citizens, who might be confused due to such dirty campaigns. That's why we would like to answer to their question marks in their heads. So, there are the ones who were tooting, where is $128 billion? So let me clarify that. In 2019, in order to manage the challenging times of the pandemic, the central bank had to carry out many forex transactions. 2020 was challenging not only for the globe but also for our country as well. $16 trillion is the total amount of the developed countries who have taken those spendings for precautionary measures. This challenging economic climate, of course, affected Turkey negatively as well. Our current account deficit has improved, but unfortunately our tourism incomes decreased as well. In order to decrease the foreign exchange debt of the private sector, the foreign exchange demand increased on the central bank, and additional demand on the gold increased the demand on the foreign exchange as well. That's why in the last 2 years, in order to finance the current account deficit, $30 billion have been used from the central bank reserves. And as a result of the capital outflow, $31 billion have been used as well. So the private sector has also demanded $50 billion in order to pay their debts. And our citizens have also changed their way of savings and demanded gold and foreign exchange. So within 4 different items, you can easily understand that there was an additional $165 billion of an additional demand on the central bank. Yesterday, the CHP leader was saying that $128 billion could have been used differently. I mean, he was blabbing around. And I believe he thought that $128 billion was a money in his pocket so that he can distribute this money as he wishes. So those statements are clearly showing his low level of understanding from economy, but it also showed how the social security institution in Turkey collapsed due to his low level of understanding from economy. I believe we should watch his program with Savaş Ay in the television and again, so that our nation will watch how this guy is the sole responsible for the collapse of the social security institution. Everything about the foreign exchange reserves, where each penny is being spent, is crystal clear and reflected on the website of the central bank. Through different means, the foreign exchange reserve is the total sum of the current account surplus and the gold reserves. So the central bank also meets the demand coming from the private sector. And central bank didn't carry out those transactions through tenders, but in order to prevent the manipulative attacks on our economy from the Asian markets, the central bank was working on a 24 hours of basis. If the market can meet the demand internally, then we will not be in need of the foreign markets. So $15 billion of a transaction have been carried out inside of the central bank, inside of the market conditions. But if the market cannot meet the demand in the private sector, then the central bank will come into play. This is the sole responsibility of the central bank. If the central bank doesn't fulfill this responsibility, due to the imbalances in the supply and demand side, the foreign exchange will increase in an unstable manner. If the demand is not met, then as a country, you will be in default in the international markets. Dear brothers and sisters, Turkey has faced with a such unprecedented level of foreign exchange demand, but still Turkey was able to meet the demand. So this is a great success story. And Turkey didn't face with problems only in the politics, but we have also shown that the Turkish economy cannot be destroyed very easily. This is a historical success story. $128 billion which have been tutored and which had been carried out where it is being spent, it doesn't go into the pockets of any person on illegal grounds. This amount of $128 billion have been spent for our nation and have gone into the pockets of the economic actors. As a result, the majority of this $128 billion have stayed inside of our borders. And of course, a great amount of this $128 billion have turned back to the central bank reserves. And as those transactions are being carried out by the central bank didn't lose any money, but rather saved 98 billion Turkish liras, and this has also been transferred to the treasury. We were the ones who increased the central bank reserves from $27.5 billion to $135 billion, Mr. Kemal. So we didn't save this reserve in order to put it aside. We increased the central bank reserves so that we can use it when we are in need of that. And we have used that, and at the moment, still the central bank has the reserve of $90 billion. Whenever there is a need, we can still use that reserve, or whenever the time matures and time is ripe, we can increase the central bank reserves beyond $100 billion. It all depends on the economic policies of Turkey. Turkey has chosen the free market economy way before. In these critical times, with our strong stance, we have protected Turkey from crumbling into troubles and challenges, both internally and externally. That's what we believe in. And in addition to that, we have distributed more than 60 billion Turkish liras for our citizens under the name of social security, so that no one is left behind. And 311 billion Turkish liras have been spent in order to support the production so that the real sector could survive in those troubling times. So thanks to those social support, Turkey grew as many developed countries were struggling, and Turkey was able to grow by 1.8%, and Turkey preserved its employment figures, increasing its production rate. And in addition to that, the central bank foreign exchange reserves have been used for the additional demand for equipments on our private sector. And our expectations for the economic growth for this year is more than 5%. The World Bank appreciates and recognizes our economic development in the face of pandemic. If we didn't meet the demand, increasing demand on the foreign exchange reserve, then we could see the similar scenarios of 1994 or 2001 economic crisis. So The ones who are touting and crying out where the $128 billion went, they have the ultimate will of putting Turkey back into the times of 1994 and 2001 economic crisis. The reason why they are holding meetings with the ex-IMF representatives in the hotel lobbies is serving for that purpose. From terrorist attacks to economic manipulations, they were grumbled in their gizzards, and their economic manipulations will also be grumbling in their gizzards as well. But the lies will never end, and the groundless accusations will never end. In the last couple of years, although we discredited their lies and we disproved their manipulations and ungroundless accusations with the legal documents, they continued spreading new lies without apologizing. I mean, you remember the lady in the video. She says, spread lies and spread big lies. First, they asked where $128 billion is. So they try to present it as if $128 billion have been stolen or have disappeared. And even their own friends and allies stated that $128 billion couldn't disappear. Then they started asking this question, to whom did you sell this $128 billion? At first, you were claiming that $128 billion have disappeared, but all of a sudden, they started asking, where did we sell this $128 billion? So they, remember, they were working in order to make the coup attempts legitimate, stating that the previous prime ministers are fleeing away from the country with the dollars. They were the ancestors of the CHP, because they believe that if you spread big lies and repeat those big lies again and again, then it will be much more easier for citizens to believe in those lies. But the truth will out inevitably. I have explained it in 4 items recently. Our current account deficit has been financed by the central bank foreign exchange reserve. It is crystal clear, which requires no further legal document. It is also crystal clear what amount is being transacted from the central bank foreign exchange reserve. Top 500 companies and top 1,000 companies in Turkey has made use of the central bank foreign exchange reserve in order to meet their forex debt. Well, they can announce. It will not be appropriate for us to disclose it. So at the end of the day, these are bad will, ungroundless accusations. Whoever is doing trade in Turkey, they have business to do with gold and foreign exchange. As a result, it is crystal clear whomever bought how much dollars. So asking those questions, who bought the foreign exchange, is putting the blame of our nation on our nation. So those transactions are being carried out on automatic platforms. As a result, the buying and the selling prices are set on the market conditions. So it is not possible to carry out privileged transactions to none of the companies. It is not possible due to the nature of the system. But in the past, there were such kind of wrongdoings. I mean, the CHP representatives surely will remember those times. the representatives who were carrying the bags of the IMF would remember those times. I mean, the spokesperson of the CHP was carrying the bags of the IMF in the past. So, due to the nature of the system, the privileged transactions cannot be carried out for the benefit of anyone. That's why we always stated that our citizens should keep their savings in Turkish lira, but if our citizens would like to keep their savings in gold or dollar, then we cannot force them to sell their golds or dollars in order to buy some Turkish liras. Dear brothers and sisters, as these realities are crystal clear, in order to decrease the trust of the investors, there were the ones who followed this policy of discrediting, asking where the $128 billion is. So it has nothing to do with the political campaign. This is an obvious attack on the interest of our nation, so we cannot deem that they are innocent. So we only want from those parties not to inflict damage or harm, even if they are not contributing anything to the society. So the period is a period in which the ones should only contribute to the Turkish economy, otherwise they should keep their mouth shut. Hopefully, we will carry Turkey towards its 2023 targets. With the permission of God, we will be the ones who will increase the investments in Turkey, and we are the ones who will develop the democracy, and we will be the ones who will make the dreams of our nations come true. So we are the ones who will make the hope survive.
Milletimiz şu sefil CHP zihniyetine bırakınız ülkenin yönetimini.
So our nation will never give the government of this country to CHP. Well, I would like to make a statement for our citizens. We didn't give $128 billion to anyone, and whoever tries to put their dirty hands on the future of our nation will be facing us first. With these feelings and emotions, once again, I would like to salute you and greet you all cordially with the most heartfelt feelings and deepest respect. As you know very well, our ex-parliament president and one of our colleagues who also served as Prime Minister and with whom we have worked in the High Strategic Council of the Presidency. Unfortunately, he has passed away, and we have seen that his name will be given to the airport. Erzincan Airport from now on will be remembered as Erzincan Yıldırım Akbulut Airport. That's why I also would like to thank Mr. Binali Yıldırım. And I would like to extend my condolences to his family and to my nation. And I wish all of you success in your work in the Parliament. Thank you very much.
Sayın Genel Başkanımıza, Cumhurbaşkanımıza hitaplarından dolayı teşekkür ediyoruz. Toplantımızı kapatıyorum. Değerli milletvekillerimiz, bugün saat 14'te genel kurul açıyoruz. Gündem dışılardan hemen sonra yeni bakanlarımızın yemin töreni olacaktır. Bilgilerinizi sunmak istiyorum.